Now let's take a look at how to create a maintenance contract with some extra billable stuff involved. Here now I've created a contract for a job called Acme Office, and this time it's got extras. I have put extras in the name here, which you probably wouldn't put in real life. I've just done that for clarity of my example. So I've got the name and the job name, and again, really important to have your job short name, something that your crews are going to understand. That's what they're going to see on their phone, so make sure it's crystal clear where this job is and what part of the job it is. Sometimes jobs have multiple things going on. You want to make sure that's crystal clear. Job address, Latin long for the job address. And again, as I showed in the other video for all-inclusive, if I wanted to link this to a sitemap in my Google Drive, I could upload a sitemap to Google Drive and paste that link in here, giving the crew a one-click link to see exactly what they needed to do on the site. Now let's take a look at the tasks I've set up for the job. Now there's a really important difference, especially when you get into extra billable work, between tasks and activities. Tasks are what is going to be used to organize the time spent on the job. Really, just think about this. A task is only something for the crews to clock into and clock out of. It's something that you're going to track payroll against. You may want to break a job down by tasks in order to look at estimated versus actual hours on a more detailed level than just the whole job. Tasks allow you to break a job down by, for example, mowing and bed maintenance and spring cleanup and fall cleanup, so that I can see estimated versus actual hours across each one of those tasks to see where we're right and where we might be off. Activities are what we're going to use for tracking billable stuff. So tasks are actually what the crews clock into when they arrive on a job. Activities are a question it's going to ask the crews when they clock out to see if they did something on a job. For instance, if you want to track how much mulch a crew used on the job, or how many bags of fertilizer they used, or how many flats of annuals they planted, you could set those each up as activities. Tasks are only going to track the amount of time a crew spent on the job. Activities are your way of asking the crew when they clock out, what did you do while you were there, and possibly how much of each one did you do when you were there, if it's something you want to track quantities against. So let's take a look at a contract now with some extras involved. I'll show you a couple of different kind of extras. When we're doing bed maintenance, for example, maybe we've got a price in this contract to say we're going to charge this customer at $40 installed per yard of mulch. So I need to set up then an activity that's going to allow the crews to write down how many yards of mulch they used, and I can bill for it accordingly. So first I'm going to go to my activities section, and then down in the bottom right, I'm going to hit add activities. Now here I'm going to add all the different things I may want to track on this job for either billable purposes, or in some cases it's not billable, but I just want to track a quantity. So if I want to track mulching, I'll turn that on. And if I want to bill it at $40 a yard, I got to make sure this is track quantity on. This is set to per unit because we're billing by the yard, not by a flat price. If I was billing by a flat price, for example, $1,000 for all the mulching, then I could set it to per app, fixed price. But in this case, I'm doing $40 a yard, so I'm going to set that to per unit, and I'll set that to 40. Now, also, I may want to bill for fertilizer. So I'll set the fertilizer on. And again, make sure quantity's on, bill per bag, and put my rate per bag over here. And maybe I also want to bill for annuals. Track quantity on, and maybe the annuals are just a flat price. So here I can say per app, fixed price, and maybe we're doing $640 worth of annual planting. So I'll put that in there. Just to trigger my office. The crews won't see the pricing, but the crews will trigger that yes, they planted annuals, and the $640 will come across for billing. So I'll hit OK. Now it's also given me a warning here that I've set up some tasks for hourly billing, but I haven't set up any rates. My activities are set up right now, and what I want to do is draw your attention back to what that message meant there. If you go to tasks, this hourly column indicates that one or more of your tasks is billed by the hour, i.e. you're going to give the client an hourly rate, like $50 an hour or $40 an hour, and do some work, especially type enhancement type work or extras, and you're going to charge them on an hourly basis. So you haven't given them a solid estimate or price. You're going to say, we're just going to bill you by the hour. So here I've got spring cleanup set as billed hourly. And the way I do that is when I'm on my activity, I turn this one on. track hours and rates for billing by the hour. That means my spring cleanups are going to be billed by the number of hours we spend there. We didn't hard price that job. We said we're going to charge you X amount per hour for the work. So what this message is telling me every time I save the job is saying, hey, you've got some tasks that are set up for hourly billing, but you haven't set up any rates. And you must set up at least one rate in order to bill something as time and material. So it's telling you you need to set up a rate here. I'm going to click OK, and now I'm going to go to hourly rates. And here is where I need to enter how much per hour I'm going to charge this customer to do spring cleanups. So I go down here and I hit add rates, and I'm going to say my grounds maintenance labor. It'll give you your default price over here, which I've got at $42.50 an hour. If I have an arrangement with this customer or this contract to pay $44 an hour for my work, I'll just update that there and hit OK. And now it's $44 an hour. You may also have multiple rates. For instance, you may also do pruning at this job for at a horticulturalist rate. So again, you can go add rates and pick your horticulturalist and the rate that you might want to charge for their services and put them in there as well. When the crew clocks into anything that's billed by the hour, it's going to ask them, are you billing for horticulturalist or maintenance labor or both? The foreman will be able to assign a person as a horticulturalist and optionally other people as labor. So now I've got this extra billable job set up. It's got 4 tasks. I've got something like bed maintenance in here where we're going to track how much mulch we put down. And I've got spring cleanup that's going to be billed by the hour. Now let's take a look at what that job would look like for my crews. I've already clocked into a task here, so I'll just keep the timesheet going and have the crews clock into spring cleanup on that job. So they're going to pick the job, go to extras, clock themselves all in, and this time they're going to clock into spring cleanup. Now it's going to ask us what rates are each one of the persons going to be. So again, it doesn't show the crew the rates, but the foreman here has the chance to say, okay, this person's a horticulturalist and these 2 people are labor, so that I bill the correct rates for these employees' time. If you have different rates, you'll need to do this. If you don't, then it won't even show the foreman this. It'll skip right past it. Then they go next, and they're going to clock in at the time. And this is my notes from the other job. I'll just put OK, and we're in. So if you have something that's billed by the hour, that's all. It'll prompt the foreman to clock in. And if there's multiple rates, it'll show the foreman the 2 different rates so that you can make sure that you're billing the right people at the right hourly rate. Again, if everybody's just got one rate, it won't even ask the foreman that question. It's going to go right by it because it knows that all the different people are billable at that one rate that you set up. Now, when the crews clock out of that job, they're also going to get a question about whether they used annuals, whether they used fertilizer, or whether they did mulching. So if the crew finished the spring cleanup and said, yeah, we planted 12 flats of annuals and we did 4 yards of mulch, this is allowing you to track it here. You can hit save. And then when they submit their timesheet, you'll be able to generate an activity report that not only shows how much time you spent on that job, but also how many flats of annuals you planted at the billable rate per annual, and how many yards of mulch you installed as well, along with the billable rate for that.